He's an ideas man, a connector, a change maker, creating a platform that uses storytelling to inspire, educate, and unite. That platform is Cuppa TV. Luke Cook, welcome to the show.
Tracy, what a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I'm ready to go.
You say conversations can transform lives, but what's one conversation you wish someone had with you earlier in your life, and how would it have changed things for you?
I think right now in society, we're in a better place to be able to seek support where we need it.
What would be the first thing someone can do to kickstart that journey and essentially step into a more powerful, greater version of themselves?
And what I did is when I timelined my life, I sat down and I looked at all the big things, how I felt at the time, how I feel now about it. Have I resolved that or not? Then I worked out what the meaning was around that.
Hello and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer, the founder of Design Studio Perth. And to celebrate the launch of season 2 of the show, Design Studio Perth is offering all our listeners a free brand discovery. So if you find yourself frustrated with haphazard brand messaging and presentation, use the link in the show notes below to book in a time to have a chat. Now, the Real Biz Life Chronicles is on a mission to become one of Australia's leading business podcasts. But in order to do that, we please need your help. If you do enjoy this episode, we please ask that you like and subscribe to our channels below, or simply share this episode with a fellow human that you love and is potentially going through a bit of a dip. He started in radio, where connection was key and conversation had the power to shift perspective. But his real journey began when he stepped into leadership and saw what happens when culture fails with the people within it. For over 2 decades, he's been at the forefront of cultural transformation, guiding individuals and organizations through burnout, personal tragedy, reinvention, and the messy human side of change. He's an ideas man, a connector, a change maker. And when the world needed deeper connection, he built it, creating a platform that uses storytelling to inspire, educate, and unite. That platform is Cuppa TV. If there were a theme song that played every time this person entered the room, it would be Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Because when he's in flow, he's unstoppable. And when he shows up, he lifts the whole room with him in it. Whether he's speaking on stage, consulting behind the scenes, or leading a conversation that shifts someone's life, he brings truth, vulnerability, and practical tools that help people move from pivotal moments for lasting impact. He believes one conversation can change everything. And by the end of this one, you'll understand why. Luke Cook, welcome to the show.
Tracy, what a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Don't stop me now, Tracy. Don't stop me now.
I did have a chuckle when I saw that. Thank you so much for jumping on today. As I said before, I know we haven't met or anything. I was just really inspired by your post on LinkedIn and knew deep down that you could add value to our audience.
Well, I'm ready to go. Where do you want to start?
Luke, you reinvented yourself more than once. What's a part of your old identity that you had to mourn in order to grow?
What a great question to start on. I think for me, it was tackling my own unconscious biases in life. You know, many of us grow up in different situations and different households, and sometimes until we start having that ability to be able to look within and own our own journey and realize that many things that have been built in us may not serve others. And so for me, I had to go on a massive journey of tackling many perceptions that I had about the world, about other people, about other situations, and go deep within and have difficult conversations with people that were different from me.
Yes.
And the journey that I went on in that discovery of having conversations with people like First Nations and transgender and people with disability, people that weren't in my world previously before I started Cuppa, and going in with a place of a willingness to understand and not to reply, but just to understand their story, has been the biggest growth area for me. And that unconscious bias I didn't know I had until I had those moments.
Look, perhaps for our listeners, you could walk us through what it is that you do.
So I launched a business called Cuppa TV back when COVID first started. So like you said, my previous background before launching Cuppa was in media advertising and sponsorships. I worked 20 years in radio and other areas of media. I started off in the promotions side of media and ended up in a sales role, and I was sales director of a media organization. And life became more about money than happiness. And I burnt myself out in that role. I started my own business, my first business called Funlocker, which was a rewards, loyalty and gifting app.
Okay.
I was one of these founders that invested everything into it. When I say everything, I sold my house, used the equity of that house to build a technology, made a lot of mistakes. I had 40 grand scar wounds of bad UX decisions. But we built a platform that worked and served the community, and then COVID hit and it wiped me out completely. And I had a young family at the time, and literally cried every single day because I felt guilt. I felt anger at myself. But little did I know that moment of hitting rock bottom would turn into something that is super incredible today. So what I do now and what started during COVID was I walked up to my local coffee shop, bought a double shot latte, started thinking about my mental health and then the mental health of others. And I decided to launch a virtual cafe at the start of COVID to help people stay positive and inspired. And it was mainly used for me though, Tracy, because I had to have purpose every single day.
Sure, of course.
So I started interviewing some great people like Lane Beachley and, world champions. And that's how Cuppa started. So fast forward to today, Cuppa.tv is 5 years old. Our role is to bring back human connection in any way, shape or form, to tackle the most important conversations that we have within ourselves, the conversations that we have with loved ones at home, the conversations that we need to have in workplaces, and even now in society. And how can Cuppa be that moment of connection where I bring experts and businesses and people together to tackle those most important topic areas and do it in a place and a space that feels safe, that everyone can learn from, tackle their own unconscious biases, like I said, and grow together in a place of hope and not fear. And that is fundamentally what we do. We monetize conversations and we bring conversations to the world like this.
Amazing. I have so many questions. I'm just trying to filter in my brain which one to ask you first. Look, I'd love to know, what do you feel is the most important, I guess it's maybe a question or conversation one should have with oneself?
The most important one or the question is tackling your own self-worth and self-belief. I think too often we feel that we are not worthy of who we're meant to be. And that limiting belief can really, really, really hold us back. And I've had to go on a deep exploration around my own limiting beliefs. And it's amazing how much trauma, no matter how long ago it happened, actually sits within and actually holds us back. So self-worth and self-belief usually can only happen when we tackle our insecurities. And those insecurities traditionally come from a trauma-based perspective. And it might not be big trauma. Most of the time it is, but it might not be big. And until we tackle that, that's the biggest conversation that we need to have within ourselves. And it's only something that I've realized in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, even just some of the trauma that's sat within me that has actually shaped the person that I am. And, it stems back to when I lost my dad at the age, I was only 4 years old. And that trauma has played a significant role in my life since I turned the age of 39, which was the same age as he was when he died. And that really, from that moment when I turned 39 to now, which I'm now 44, it's amazing how the depths of that trauma exists. And not in a bad way, because, this is the thing that I say, Tracy, like, if I look at my life now, my life is made up, if you think of it like a big visual, like a puzzle, my life is made up of all these individual moments. These moments are things that have happened in our life, these little puzzle pieces, and each moment has its place. Our role as an individual is trying to find out where that moment fits, where that puzzle piece fits. And until we go within and go towards the pain, we can't move forward as an individual. Sometimes we hope that puzzle piece, we hide it underneath the couch and hope a metaphorical vacuum will suck it up.
Yep, been
there. But
there.
unfortunately, it doesn't. And it reappears because you can't finish your piece until you tackle that puzzle. You can't finish your puzzle until you tackle that piece. And the way I see life now is that not one moment defines you, but all moments do make you. That's my line to people when
Love
we
that.
are tackling something big in our world.
Mm.
Yes, we've got to sit in the pain. Yes, we've got to sit in the moment, but don't let it define you. Let's find the growth layer to that moment that we can move from. And eventually you'll be able to place that piece. Trust me, it happens.
Mm.
We can't run away from it. It follows.
No, 100%. And I can relate to so much of what you share. But I guess for our listeners, Luke, I'd love to know. So say someone knows they've got some, I want to say, misunderstandings about themselves. They don't quite realize it's trauma that they haven't dealt with. What would be the first step? Because let's face it, this personal growth journey is terrifying, but very liberating at the same time. What would be the first things someone can do to kickstart that journey and essentially step into a more powerful, greater version of themselves?
Yeah, the thing that I did, so when I lost my business, three things happened to me in one concession. One, I lost my best mate who had two kids. I turned 39, the same age as my dad, and then COVID
Mm,
hit and it wiped my business out, which left me with nothing, which is the same thing. My dad left us with nothing. My mate Hodgie left his family with nothing. So all these big moments impacted me within like a 4 or 5 month period. At that time, when I was at my worst, I did something that I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And I sat down and I timelined my whole life. I sat down and looked at all the moments that happened, not just the bad moments, but all the good moments that happened too.
yeah,
And like a puzzle piece again. And I like using this visual because it helps people. But each puzzle piece
yeah.
comes with a connection layer, right? Either
Mm,
something needs to go in it or something needs to come out of it. And what I did is when I timelined my life, I sat down and I looked at all the big things, how I felt at the time, how I feel now about it. Have I resolved that or not? Then I worked out what the meaning was around that and where my growth layer from it is. So when I lost my dad, I looked at that time when I turned 39, the same age as he was when he died, and I just went, my growth is I've got a young daughter. I'm still here. I can make every moment count with my daughter. I can videotape who her dad is so she can remember who I am if anything happened to me.
mm,
Versus I don't know anything about my dad because there wasn't technology back then, right?
mm,
So when we come from a place of action, that next one step, that one moment, that one movement, the one conversation, the one idea, we don't have to overcomplicate things, but we can look at the one meaning. And that's where we can start to do it. So when I timeline my life, it was amazing at all the different things of what happened in my life really set the foundations of where I could find purpose in my next venture or the
mm.
next thing that I can do. But sometimes I think we're just too afraid to reflect and we're too busy trying to focus on the top when the data points to our strategy to be better humans actually exists from the moments that have happened in our life, because
Mm.
then we can work out the right plan and approach around it once we do that reflection piece. So for anyone that is listening for your own personal growth journey, look at every moment that has happened in your life, in particular the big ones.
Mm.
Don't separate it from the bad or the good. Just look at each moment in its current form and its existence and work out, how you felt, what you've learned around it, where you can grow from. Those three things set the foundation to your future self. 100%.
Look, I love that frame that you've given us because so often we're focused on who we're going to become and where we want to go. And it's like future, 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 future that we just, are always focusing on. But it's a great reminder to kind of reflect, look back. So every quarter I'll sit down, I'll look through my photos and kind of just reflect on what's happened. But I love how you've suggested to create an actual timeline of your life. And then do you recommend once you've kind of laid it all out, you kind of take a deeper dive into each of those
Well,
puzzle
you've
pieces
got to
of one's
ask,
life?
you've got to ask yourself, like, have I actually moved through that or is it still a pain?
Mm,
Like when I sat with my dad's death, it was still a pain because I never tackled it. I never had support to
mm,
tackle it back when I was a kid. Like it wasn't there then. And if you want to be honest with yourself in that moment, then you realize, oh no, I've actually got to go deeper. And maybe I do need support to tackle that insecurity
mm.
or tackle that moment. And then you can seek other support, whether it's external services, a mentor or a coach or someone else that can help you guide through that. Letting it just be and sit and not looking at tackling it is probably the worst thing that you can do. So
Makes amazing
because
sense.
you just move on and moving on, there is going to be something there that reappears at some point in time that brings you back down. And it doesn't go away. Trauma sits within the body until we actually make our own means to be able to get through that. So I do believe that, from answering your question, I think look deeper within it and ask yourself, have I actually grown from this, or am I still being held back? If you've grown, fantastic. Write down that learning, because that learning will come in your values and what you stand for and the boundaries that you set, right? But if you haven't navigated through it, and yourself, you feel it in your gut if you've navigated through it or not, go deeper, go towards the pain, go towards the components to actually navigate yourself through it, because then your growth will happen exponentially once you've actually navigated through that. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily go completely.
Yes.
But you're doing the next step to get to where you need to be. You're not just letting it sit.
Powerful. Thank you, Luke.
No
You
worries.
mentioned something earlier that you had these three major things that happened, around the time that COVID happened. Walk us through with having those, pretty big events. How did you navigate that?
I think in my whole life, I was an only child growing up.
Hmm.
And so my brain just naturally always goes to, being creative and thinking outside the box. And, even my career, I was promotions director, coming up with ideas for clients. And
Hmm.
if I take myself back to that moment of realizing that my life was flipped completely, I cried every day. So I knew my mental health wasn't good.
Hmm.
But I always say, like, as long as, even if you hit the ground really hard, just try and make sure that you're looking up,
Yeah.
because it doesn't take much to change. It doesn't take much to shift energy,
Hmm.
as long as we're doing the next one thing. So what did for myself was I started to own the mornings. That was probably the biggest thing for me during that tough time, was owning the mornings. Because if I got
Hmm.
up, went for a run, saw the sunrise, did a meditation, at least I could look back on my day, no matter how bad I felt, and knew that I did one thing for myself.
Yeah,
Then
great.
it was the little one actions. It's the little, I think we try and we overcomplicate things, but in
Hmm.
a time of trauma and overwhelm, you just need to focus on the next one step. And that could be a conversation with someone that you haven't spoken to for a while. It could be reaching out to someone. It could be an idea. It could be whatever. It's those little one moments
Hmm.
that make the difference. So for me, I think when I was going through that time, I relied upon my network. I captured myself in the mornings and made sure that I owned something for myself. And then finally, I think it was just that ability to just go, okay, what's the next one thing that can get me through this? And that's where Couple was born. And, to this day, I'm thankful now that I went through that trauma,
Hmm.
because that trauma of everything that happened has made me stronger. It's made me be able to be the better person in the world
Yes.
and make a greater difference. And so, yeah, I think just focusing on that next one step is the critical part.
I can relate to so much of what you're sharing, because I've gone through my own batch, shall we say, of trauma. And at the time, you think, "Oh my gosh, what a shit show! Like, why me?" You have this sort of victim mentality, and you know, I also had it happens in threes, right? Like last
Yeah,
year, there was three major things, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, who have I pissed off upstairs?" And at the time, it was just like, and I love what you said about only in the morning, because I did the exact same thing. Get up every morning, journal, go for a run, go to gym, and you just own the day that way. And whilst it completely sucks, when you eventually come out the other side, and I'm still working through it, don't get me wrong,
of
you eventually
course.
start to feel so much stronger, so much more resilient. And I think once you've done the hard work, like no one can take that away from you. That's something you've owned and something that you've done.
It's so beautiful that you say that, because that's the way I look at my life. Like, this is my story. That's the one thing that no one
Mm,
can ever take away from you.
yeah.
Like, your story is completely different to someone else's, and what a beautiful thing that is. No matter how
Mm,
complex that puzzle is, if it's a puzzle that's got so many images that makes it easy, or if it's a puzzle that's just blue sky, like, it doesn't matter
yeah.
what journey everyone's on. Our ability to place our moments and turn them into movements of positive change,
Mm,
we'll all be better off if we can do that as a society, when we see, our own pain is our catalyst to be able to maybe even support others. Like, I always say that no one
definitely.
will ever walk in your footsteps. No one can ever walk in your shoes, but people can follow your footsteps. And
Yes.
your ability to come and share your story at a place and a time where it might help someone else is just the best thing, like,
Mm,
and something that I thrive upon now is having moments like this where someone's listening or watching or whatever it may be, go, okay, I'm in that moment right now, and it's going to be
Yeah.
okay, and I can move through it. The thing about turning a moment to a movement, and this is my philosophy, is that it's actually in the word movement of what our action is, and that is to move. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you're going forwards. It doesn't matter if you're going backwards. Just don't sit still. Just move and
Yeah,
move
definitely.
every single day. Those little one moments, they turn into actions. They turn into growth. They turn into a movement of positive change, and it will happen. And yes, you're going to get setbacks.
Yes.
And yes, it's going to keep on happening. And yes, life is not going to be perfect. But that's the thing. It's not about perfection in life. It's about progress. And if we focus on the progress of us growing every single day in whatever role we're in, whatever business we're running, whatever the thing it is, progress is more important than perfection, because progress is what
Definitely.
are the stepping stones to our personal and business growth.
And look, I don't know about you, while you're in the trenches and you're doing the hard work and you're thinking, oh my gosh, why me? And why is my puzzle like this 3D optical thing going? And this is why I reflect, when you look back, it's almost like you don't recognize yourself in some ways, because you've transformed through this journey, and you put in the hard yards, and it's just that consistency and focus is such a beast.
It is. And, you've
Mm,
got to show up. And I played the victim game before, like, why
same.
me, like you said
Mm,
previously, but no one's saving you. You are the only one that's saving you. You've got to own it. And when you realize that it's on you, no matter what situation we are being dealt with, and you can talk about some of the biggest situations that are not your fault, right? Like,
mm,
it could be as big as, things like domestic violence and all those types of things that may happen. But you own your own story and you own the next step. No one else can control that. And that's where I think, we've got to be careful about playing the victim
yeah.
in no matter what capacity that is, because you can't grow from a victim mindset. You can grow from when you own it. And no matter, and I'm not saying that, people out there aren't victims, because yes, they are. But
Yeah.
for you to move forward as an individual, you need to own it, and you need to grow what that next step is. And again, don't make that next step something that you need to solve in a day, a year, or 10 years. It's
No.
just those little one moments that you can start to focus on yourself and start to grow yourself and get help, or whatever it may be, whatever the
Mm,
situation is. And so, yeah, that's, I think, such an important point, is about owning the journey.
definitely. And look, you say conversations can transform lives, but what's one conversation you wish someone had with you earlier in your life, and how would it have changed things for you?
Oh, how early do we want to go?
Up to you.
Oh, I think right now in society, we're in a better place to be able to seek support where we need it. So I
Mm,
wish someone back then guided me a little bit more, instead of just saying, like when I was a young kid, when I lost my dad, I wish there was those moments of someone there to be able to support that journey besides my mum. My mum did an amazing job,
mm,
but I sort of felt like I had to become the man of the house, which has then led to other parts of my life feeling like I need to solve other people's problems, and my
sure.
boundaries not being crossed, and my value, like I've become too much more of a people pleaser because of the trauma that I experienced as a young kid.
Mm,
I reckon as I turned older and in the work environment, I wish the reflection piece is because I try to appease other people, I tried to replicate my leadership style like my bosses, instead of creating my own leadership style based off my values.
mm,
And I don't think I was ever coached well enough as becoming a leader inside organizations. When I was a sales director of a media organization, I didn't create my own leadership style and structure. I tried to replicate my bosses, and that didn't work out.
mm,
It ended up burning
yeah.
me out because I tried to be someone that I wasn't. So I think from a coaching perspective, it would have been great to have someone there to let me know that you just be you, embrace your story, embrace your narrative, embrace your
Mm.
values. Don't steer past that. Be you. Don't be someone else. I wish I learned that in the early stages of my leadership growth.
It's funny you said that, because my mentor was always saying, Trace, just like lean into being Tracy Fryer, just like lean more in, and like you say, I think I'm probably a bit the same. We try model behaviors that we've seen illustrated to us, but it's just a great simple reminder to just like lean in, doing more of yourself.
You can take little snippets from people that you've worked under and
Hmm.
evolve that. And right now, if I lose someone dear in my life, I look at, well, what's the one trait that I can hold on to from that person? It's the same as leaders in your life as well. And yes, you can look at those traits and explore those traits because it resonated with you and that's what you love from it. But be you 150%. That's why I think doing the work of understanding who you are, your moments in life are actually the data points for the strategy of who you can become. And, I should have stayed within that remit, but I did. I became like this hard-ass sales director, telling my staff, directing my staff to be more like me when I wasn't allowing them to be them. And I burnt out because I wasn't being me. It's interesting, hey, like, I was sales director of a media organization and my blood pressure was terrible. I had to actually go on blood pressure tablets.
Oh, wow.
But I'm working hard now as a founder, but because it's come from a place of purpose and why, my blood pressure is normal. So it shows where burnout can come from when you are not being you
and not
in the role.
aligned.
100%. And I think that is the biggest play on burnout. It's not that work is putting more pressure on us. It's because we're either not feeling valued enough or we're coming from a place where we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing and we're not valuing ourselves. That's where burnout really hits. And I had to learn the hard way. I've burnt out a couple of times in my life where it just became too much. But, I think that is such a massive learning curve is just uncover more about you. You don't have to find your end purpose in life. Just be true to you. I think the younger generation are getting that. I think the younger generation are the generation that I came through was, you get your foot in the door, just kick the bloody thing open and work harder and, be grateful that you got a job, be grateful of all these different things. And I loved the career that I was in. I loved the businesses that I was in, but I became someone that I wasn't. And that is a big red flag for people that are out there listening is if you're becoming someone that you're not.
Definitely.
Don't just keep pushing through it. Maybe realize why you're in that spot in the first place by looking back at your data points because they're there in your life moments and see where you can grow from that and find something that's a little bit more suitable or reframe the way that you approach the work that you're doing to be something that's a bit more suitable for you.
And isn't it interesting how your body tells you when something's out of whack? Like, it's if you can't figure it out yourself, like if you're not aligned, your body just naturally tells you like, hey, this is not cool. Like a change needs to happen.
And that's why it's important to really stop where you can and just listen to your body. It's hard. But when you become good at it, like when you just go, like you definitely can feel it. You definitely know. And it keeps its score as well. Like your body is a very smart thing where it holds on to things and it'll let you know when you need to. You just need to learn how to listen to it.
Definitely. Look, I just want to take a moment and just say and commend you. It's so brave to embrace the journey that you have because not everyone has the courage to do that. And I often say to my guests that when we do embrace our journey, we, face that shitstorm, guns blazing, like we give others the permission to do the same. So I just think it's really fantastic to see what you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, especially the last 5 years in particular. And building something that I see every single day makes a difference to people's lives has just been, I don't look at this as work. I don't look at it as business. In fact, I now view it as my legacy. I don't think I'll ever sell Cuppa because I love it that much, and hope it sticks around for a long, long period of time. Because from my perspective, human connection is our biggest missing piece at the moment.
Definitely,
and the more we can create these moments of human connection where people's conversational muscle starts to increase again because it's decreased to a point where our society is so dopamine hit heavy with quick instant interactions.
So much.
And like I said it in a LinkedIn post the other day, like there's 13 different comms mechanisms inside an organization now. I can call someone and they say, I don't listen to my voicemail, send me a text message. And then you call other people and they go, I prefer to communicate via WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Like, great, we've got all these comms mechanisms, but unlike love languages in relationships, we now got comms languages. And that's freaking, actually, can I say the F-bomb on this?
Oh, of course, go for it. Yeah, no filter.
It's fucking hard to build human connection these days. And the solutions to our problems as a society right now we've been standing on this land of ancient wisdom for 60,000 years that actually has the solutions of sitting around the campfire and having conversations and learning from each other and solving problems that way. But we're not spending that time anymore. And our time is caught up on devices. Throw a challenge to you. Do you know the answer? Question for you.
Go
Tracy.
for it. I'm ready. Ooh.
How much of our life, waking life, is spent on a mobile device?
Oh, wow. It's probably very extreme. 70%, maybe?
17.5 years.
Oh, all right.
17.5 years of our waking life is spent on a mobile device.
Jeez.
5.5 hours average a day.
Wowza.
People say they're busy. Busy doing what, firstly?
Precisely, yeah.
I think that's probably one of the biggest wake-up calls. If we're spending 17.5 years of our waking life on a mobile phone, how can we better use that experience?
100%.
Maybe to call people, maybe to check in, maybe to just say, hey, I love you, or I think you're doing an amazing job, versus the doom scrolling that we're experiencing, thinking that we're there. So I think, the biggest wake-up call for me is just realizing that. And why I do what I do is to bring that human connection, and to bring back conversations that actually are important to the world.
I think my percentage is really high there because as a business owner, I feel like I don't doom scroll, but I feel like I'm constantly either on my phone, on a call, on my laptop, on my iPad, recording for the. It just feels like it's a very high percentage of my day that revolves around tech. But that's why I love running, love getting outside, going to gym, just breaking that cycle because otherwise, your phone becomes this thing that you're constantly glued to. And sometimes I'm just like, put it down and just walk away from it. Just step away from the phone.
I put all my apps on.
Okay.
I put all my apps on the second screen, and I have a little words on my say look up. So whenever I get to do I really need to actually do this, or do I need to look up?
Yeah. It's so addictive. Luke, I wanted to ask, would it be okay to unpack what you experienced with your dad's passing if you're comfortable to go there?
Of course.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I think there's a lot of people who have experienced death in their life and they haven't, they just say, oh yeah, it's part of life. And whilst it is, I think a lot of us don't actually know how to fully process that trauma that we've experienced. Well, I'd love to know, when did you realize that your dad's passing had impacted you so?
Around that time where those three big things happened, when I turned the same age as him, 39.
Yes.
Because I lost everything, and my dad didn't leave us with much because there was nothing there to leave. So I went through this massive thought process of, what happens if I die? What am I leaving my kids? And I set myself on an avalanche of thought, which was not good for me, until I actually sat down and then timelined that life. And when I looked at what I missed about my dad, it was the fact that I didn't know his story. I didn't know who the man was. I didn't know what his values were. I didn't know what his dreams were. I didn't know any of this because my only two reflections of my dad was once he came home, he worked for a fruit juice company, and he gave me a popper, and I just remember his waist down because that's how high I was at the time as a 4-year-old. The second time was he told me off around the dinner table and told me not to go, not to get any food for the night. I don't know what I did, but I just remember that moment. And then the next moment I remember is the police car rocking up with my mum in the back at my grandma's house when my dad had passed.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as a young kid, I remember those 3 moments only. So for me, when I turned 39 and realized that, hey, if I die tomorrow, I left my kids with nothing, just like my dad did. So then that was this guilt as a male who have put my family in this situation because I invested something that I believed in my previous business out of my control because COVID wiped me, not the business idea. So that was the big moment, and then just realizing that I didn't know his story. But that's when I shifted my perspective to go, well, hey, Luke, you're still alive. Firstly, like you could live the 39 years that your dad didn't live. To be what 78 or 80, and you got a perfect perspective with your girls to document everything that you stand for in video form. So if you ever pass, at least your girls will know who your dad is, and you could be with them and be supportive of them and grow with them. And so that's where I shifted the perspective, but I had to sit in the pain to realize that. And then I shifted that perspective, but it was only like I said, about 6 to 8 weeks ago, I did a hypnotherapy session.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And we actually went back to that moment of, and that's when I realized that from that moment, it wasn't that I was sad about my dad's death or in pain about that I didn't really know much about him. Yes, that is something that I wish I did. But
Mm.
what happened in that hypnotherapy session was the fact that I unearthed the fact that from that moment, I felt that I had to be the man of the house, and I felt that I could not let my mum down because there was only mum and I.
Sure.
But because of that remit of not letting my mum down, that narrative has carried through in every single relationship of
Yeah.
people pleasing and not
Mm.
respecting my own boundaries.
Mm.
Even with things that I don't feel comfortable with, I just don't want to let that person down.
Yeah.
If
I
the
get that.
client, the
Mm.
the relationship, I don't want to let people down, but I let people come into my boundaries, and
Mm.
that is also not a good thing. So, like through that moment, I've realized that I've got to do a little bit more work here on my own boundaries, and I still want to be the loving Luke that doesn't want to let people down because that's who I
Yeah.
am. That's my kind nature.
Mm.
But if something doesn't sit within my values or and goes against it, I need to politely say no, so
Yes.
it doesn't impact my energy in a way that it needs to. And that means, I don't know if you've heard the term energy vampires before. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have.
So I've got to be
Yes.
careful of the energy vampires, whether it's things like tasks that are just not sitting right with me,
Mm.
or if it's people that are causing a negative impact on my life. How do I distance them out, no matter if they're close to me or not? Um,
Yes.
so that's something that I need to work on, but it's only really hit home since I did that little bit of an uncovery. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like when I say you got to own stuff, I'll explore every territory to get through this trauma. I don't care
Yes.
what it's going to take. And that's why extra things like hypnotherapy or breath work
Yeah.
has worked really well for me to uncover where these trauma sits in my body and how I can solve and navigate through it.
Yeah, I've dabbled in a few things, and it's always interesting. Like, each thing that you do kind of gives you different perspective, and it really just helps you work through that chaos in your mind sometimes. I had another question. I've gone blank now, but I wanted to ask. You mentioned that there was a stage in your life where you were chasing money. What
Mm.
was the change for you reaching that burnout stage? Is that what made you stop chasing money as such? Because I think a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, yes, we want financial freedom, but a lot of us do chase money at our core. Are you happy
Yeah.
to
So,
share? Yeah.
yeah. So my first job in media was in radio. I was Lightning Luke. That was my
Mm,
stage name on the streets of
right.
Sydney. On the streets of Sydney, handing out free cans of Coke and doing live crosses on the radio. My whole
Mm,
role back then was to make people happy, and I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
yeah.
Then I became promotions and sponsorships director of the radio station where it was very ideas driven. So a salesperson would come to me and say, "Oh, Cookie, can you come up with an idea for my client's campaign?" And I love that as well because it tapped into my idea set, and I
Mm,
thrived so much in that role. Then one day, the national sales director of the radio network tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Cookie, you'd be amazing at sales. I've seen you out there pitching your ideas. I think you can make a lot more money in sales." And I
yeah.
went, "Oh, okay. No worries." And then I found a business that I moved from my radio network to another business, which did the balance well. So I could come up with my ideas for a client briefs, but then I could go sell it and make money. And I thrived in that situation as well because I can sell my concepts like nothing else.
Yeah.
And I started making massive amounts of money, like 10, 15 grand commission checks on media deals.
Gee.
So that set me up. And my boss
Wow.
was always
Yeah.
saying, "When are you going to buy a house, Cookie?" And he knew, and this is the guy that I try to replicate, "When are you going to buy the house, Cookie?" Because he knew that once you bought a house, you're in, right? Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
which way you look at it. So I bought my apartment, and then money started to filter. And then I
Mm,
was always progressed through the ranks. Whenever a position was opened, Luke got the next role because I worked bloody hard. I worked my butt off and I proved myself. Then all of a sudden I became sales director, and it was less about the ideas because we had a department that did that. It was less
yeah.
about making people happy because I was always constantly looking at the dollar signs and all that type of
Yeah.
stuff.
Mm,
And then once I became sales director, I probably made less money because I wasn't earning the commission checks like I was. I was relying upon a team to make that happen for me, so then I
sure.
could earn a big commission. Then all of a sudden, I was in this role that just didn't favor my values or my
Mm,
creativity, and that's when I stayed in that role for about 2 years. But it was burning myself out because it was not aligned to things that I valued and things that I enjoyed in the work. It became too much about money than happiness. And I probably should have pulled the pin of that role earlier. But again, I didn't want to let the person down. I didn't want to let the organization down. That's where my boundaries were impacted, and I never threw back at that. And, it took that time. You know how I said I timeline my life, the big debate?
Yes.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't happy and I knew money controlled me, but I didn't know what I didn't like about the role. And when I reflected on that part of my timeline of burnout, I really went deep on, you've got to stay true to the things that make you vibey and shine. And you can't do that as an entrepreneur. You've got to do everything as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I get that. You've got to do everything, right? But now I've built the business up in a place where I'm hiring people to do the implementation part of the role. I'm hiring people to do other parts, and I can focus on the strategy and the creativity and making people happy through the shows that I do and all that type of stuff. And so, there is ebbs and flows of everything, but that's the burnout journey for me. And that's why I got to the place, is because I just was so focused on that salary increasing. And it ended up kicking me in the butt anyway, right? Because I sold my apartment. I used the equity to build a platform called Fund Locker. Yeah. And from burnout, I probably shouldn't have started my own business straight away from burnout, because looking back at it now, it definitely wasn't the smartest thing to do. I backed myself though. So I'm proud that I backed myself.
Yeah, of course.
And it was out of my control. COVID hit and I just ran out of cash flow, and that's not my fault. And now look at me, I wouldn't be in this spot today doing what I'm doing because of that journey, right? So yeah, 100%. my bank account wishes that I still had that money in there, and I do too. But I don't know if I would be in this spot right now doing what I'm doing if I didn't go through that journey, right? That's my story. Yeah. How powerful is that? It's now I get to give back. So yeah, it's good. The money will come, and it will.
Definitely.
But it's now more than ever, it's not about money now, it's about legacy. And if legacy opens up those doors and other opportunities, and I'm grateful for every position that I'm in and every conversation that I do and every impact that I can make. And what a privilege it is.
Yes, definitely. Luke, what's something you're still unlearning about leadership?
What am I unlearning about leadership? That I always have to be right.
You and me both.
It's a tough one, right? And especially like I'm don't stop me now, right? Like I'm the one that I'm always forging ahead. And I think what I'm learning right now that I need to unlearn is know that there's plenty of capable people that are now within Cuppa's world that can grow themselves if we challenge them and let them make their mistakes. I think I need to unlearn that a little bit more. I think I just need to give people their own time and space and be a great guiding light instead of someone that says, this is the way that I've done it.
Yes, I think I need to hear that as well. So thank you.
It's a tough one, right? Especially if you're on your own journey. But again, individual people are on their journey as well, right? So, when we look at them as humans and not as task executors,
yes.
and we can help them grow. And, I'm modeling that as much as I can in the roles that I'm like in my business right now with new people starting and giving them a voice. But yeah, I think I need to unlearn that a little bit more, and also need to unlearn that you do need to take those time out for you, creating that right level of space. And it doesn't have to be much space, by the way. It doesn't mean that you have to take like 4 weeks off in a calendar year to reset. It just means that, hey, if I've got half an hour to go for a walk and just take a breath, or if I've, it's those little moments that we can incorporate in the day that I need to, keep doing. I'm doing it. I just need to keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely a great reminder, because I think we do think we have to take 4 weeks off. We have to go to some exotic islands. We have to be, away from everything, but you can just integrate it into your day.
Yeah, or even a weekend, I do work a lot of weekends because of the jobs that I do. But just taking that time out, I think, I need to unlearn that a little bit more. I can get better at that.
Look, you've sat with people from all walks of life, First Nation leaders, the trans community, trauma survivors. What's one story that changed your worldview forever?
My worldview forever. There was a lady by the name of Sandra Pankhurst. Sandra wrote the book called The Trauma Cleaner. But Sandra's story didn't replicate mine one bit. Sandra was born a boy. She grew up in a household that wasn't good for her. She found a foster home with a family that didn't think they could have kids. They could have kids, and they ended up vanquishing her to the back shed and hardly looked after her. And she grew up with so much pain, and then she became one of the first recipients of a transgender operation in New South Wales. She became a prostitute and then became a trauma cleaner. If you don't know what a trauma cleaner is, it's someone that goes into hoarder houses, murder victim sites, and cleans up the house after, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So not one part, besides Sandra being born a boy, not one part of her life replicated mine. And I was so nervous by that conversation because I didn't know where to go or what to tackle. The first time I ever spoke to someone that was transgender, I was afraid to say the wrong things. But Sandra made me feel so safe because she cared so much about the other person on the other side that you just saw that she was a human being who carried such beauty within herself that for me, that was a big eye opener that says no matter how someone is different from you, everyone is the same as you in the way that they are human. And that mixed with First Nations wisdom, that mixed with other things made me really realize that the words that I used to say out of my mouth against some of these marginalized voices was not right. And I look back and you didn't know much more. I was just a white privileged male that used to joke around with his mates. That you don't really know who you're impacting in even the vibes and the energy that you're putting out because you don't know what's behind the other side. And we're so challenged as a society right now because everyone has an opinion and we're not afraid to launch our opinion no matter what channel it is. When if you ask that person who's launching that opinion, have you actually sat down with someone that was transgender to hear their story? Have you actually sat down with someone that's First Nations to hear their story? Have you actually taken the time to look at your own unconscious biases to do it? Most of the time, the answer will be no. And yet we're still ready to judge an opinion or we're still ready to make a laugh. So Sandra's story was definitely one. Now, unfortunately, Sandra passed away of throat cancer a couple of years ago. But that moment has always sat with me because of the beautiful human that she was. And the amount of trauma that she's faced in her life, she hasn't come at it from a place of, well, it was me. She's come at a place of trying to help others. And
of course, amazing.
Far out. Like it takes that simple mindset of serving and giving and being of service to others is, that's what we can all do. So yeah, Sandra's probably the one that has really stuck out as one of the biggest moments and biggest conversations for me.
It's really powerful. I think every fiber in my being was goosebumping as you were sharing that. So
yeah, it's
powerful reminder.
Yeah, we just got to be careful. We're going to be careful around where we're at as society about just launching opinions. We've seen the impact that has. It's caused such great divide that the pendulum has swung, where marginalised voices are now not being heard because of what's happening over in the States and other components. And the reason why it's there is because we've tried to come at it as a combative lens, not as a lens that brings hope to everyone. 99.9% of our DNA is the same. That 0.1% is what's causing the conflict.
Yeah.
And if we think about that, then we know that the person over the other side that we're chatting to or the perspective that they may have that might be different to ours doesn't mean we have to go at them like 100 miles an hour. It means we need to understand their perspective. We need to go deep in their story and understand their story. When we ask the vulnerable questions, we can get to the real core of who that human is. I always also want to state that if you're nervous about having that conversation with someone that you don't know or someone that's completely different from you, what I've learned is that nervousness means that you're about to go on a bloody learning journey. So embrace that sucker.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Thanks for this chat.
Yeah, you get nervous about conversations and then all of a sudden, holy shit, that nerve's coming from a place that I'm about to learn something new because those nerves are coming because you're not comfortable around that conversation yet.
Yeah.
Go vulnerable. Lead with that. Hey, I'm nervous about this conversation because I'm worried about saying the wrong thing. If I say the wrong thing, please just let me know and I want to learn from this. You've broken the ice straight away. You're in the conversation. You're coming from. And I remember there was a guy by the name of Joey Williams, an Indigenous man, played rugby league here on the Eastern Seaboard, suffered from bad mental health, tried to commit suicide, but an Indigenous man. And I remember asking him in a conversation. I said, "Well, what can us as white fellas do for our Indigenous community. He goes, cookie, 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 got to hold you up there, mate. And I go, why? He goes, you said our. We're not yours. I
Yeah.
went, wow. Like that threw me because it was like just came in. But I just went,
Yeah.
oh, I've just learned something new. I don't say our, like the, or, like you just got to be careful. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Our biggest learning and growth comes when we have conversations with people that are different from us, because our nerves and our comfortableness makes we're going to learn something new. It's so easy to think about in that way, because if you're nervous and you go, no, I'm going to be able to learn something, it means that you can break through that.
I love that. Thank you again. I needed to hear that because every conversation I have with the amazing guests that come on the show, I always get nervous. Like I have a sweaty mo. It's just not good. But bit of a twitch going and then I calm down. But
Yeah, sweaty
I love
mo
that.
means you don't know. There we go. Put a little rhyme to
There
that,
we go.
sweaty mo. Yeah.
I need a t-shirt that says that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Luke. Luke, we often talk about making the world a better place, but better for who? And who do you keep at the center when making big decisions?
My two daughters now.
Mm,
I brought them into this crazy bloody world. It's my responsibility to try and make this world a better place.
mm.
So you got to people need to find their own reasons, because once you do, the why can always sit, but if you're doing it for someone else, then it actually drives you a lot further. So I think, that to me is at the forefront of everything that I do now is just really think about, okay, I have a responsibility. I'm not just here on this earth to be that born in 1981 and died in blah, 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 like it's that gap in between that dash that people say is the most
Yes.
important part. You got to make sure that you're living in the best life possible, but you also make sure that you're living it the best possible, but also making sure it's better for other people who are going to be here in the future. So,
Yeah.
everyone's got to find their own why. Not everyone will have kids, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that you don't stop caring about others. And
Yeah.
that's my North Star now. And the fact that I'm always learning is my other North Star. Like,
Yes.
I sat in a beautiful conversation with a client who we're putting on a talk for Matariki, which is the Maori Day
Okay.
coming up. And I don't know too much about Maori culture still, but we got a beautiful man by the name of Jace Te Patu. He's a Maori man. He sat in the conversation with the client and their Maori team, and just hearing their language being spoken, I had no freaking idea what they were saying. But the beauty that I had in that moment of going, wow, like this is it. This is amazing to be able to sit in this conversation and just be an observer of the beautiful language that they're sharing. And part of me went, oh, we just don't know our own Indigenous language here. I should have said our again, the Indigenous language here. And, that moment was of beauty where I just went, that's why I do what I do, is to be able to experience this as much as I can. So, wow, how lucky am I? So my girls and the fact that I'm still on my learning journey is my guiding light.
And Luke, what advice can you give to our listeners in the terms of, of us not being so biased, whether it's, race, gender, whatever the case may be, just to kind of remove those filters. And I think you said it earlier, just remembering that there's a human with a story on the other side of that.
Curiosity. That's the benefit of tackling. Say, I don't know if you've seen the growth circles, but you've got comfortable to fear, and then living in the the circles. The biggest thing that gets us through all of these modes of growth is that that tackling every conversation with curiosity, which means you have to become a bloody good listener.
Yeah.
There's an amazing guy by the name of Oscar Trimboli. He's a deep listening expert. People should Google him. He's got a book about it. But he spoke on Kappa. He spoke about people speak at 150 words a minute, but they think at 900 words a minute.
Wow.
Which means that their first 150 words isn't necessarily what they're trying to get out. Yet too often we're either going into problem solving mode for that person, or we're trying to answer it, or we're trying to add our own perspective to this conversation that you don't have the authority to go in there yet. So to be able to be curious and ask why that is, and let them go deep on their story first before you say anything is critical. And so I try and do that as much as possible now without interrupting, because he has this quiz where you can find out what your listening villain is, and I am the rude interrupter. I can solve your story before you even need to speak. I actually know where you're going, Tracy. So
Sure.
you don't need.
Oh
You
my
don't
gosh.
need
Wow.
to talk.
Geez. Like, I'll just leave the room.
You don't even need to talk, Tracy. I know where you're going. I know. So yeah, you can just save your own breath, because I'm here to save it.
Well, Luke, on that note, my battery is actually about to die. So just hold that thought. Let me just plug it in. Sorry.
I can keep talking if you want, Tracy. There we go.
Sorry about that. Anyway, never a dull moment. There we go.
No,
Back in action.
that's all right. But that is. I know that's my villain. I know that I don't. I've got to be careful of that. But now that I'm aware of it, I definitely allow people to hold more space by asking the questions that allows them to get out that next 150 words, and then the next 150 words after that. Because usually, no matter what situation you're looking at, they'll usually end up solving their own problem by exploring the actual intents of why they're asking you that question or talking themselves. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's listening is definitely something I've had to get better at doing, because I can talk. I love a chat. I have lots to say, but it's like you said before, trying not to solve someone's problem, not this is the way you should do it. And like you said, also letting that person go on their own journey and figure it out for themselves. I have this thing where I try and save everyone. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm the oldest. I'm not sure of my family, but yeah, I really had to learn to just be a better listener and really just sit in the space with that person. And if they want advice, great. If they don't, that's also fine as well.
So good. Yeah, just little things like tell me more, or why is that so? Let them go. Those little terms just help them get out that next steps. So it's not saying you be silent in the conversation and just look at them and not say anything. It's just don't trigger the next part of their conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, what's a truth that you know now that you didn't have the courage to say out loud 5 years ago?
That I didn't know anything about the world. I didn't. I was in my own bubble with people that
Yeah.
looked like me, sounded like me, acted like me. Didn't know anything about the world. Nothing. I just thought that what my world was everything, and it wasn't. It was like I was had so many barriers and walls, and unconsciously. But yeah, I'd say that's the one truth that I know 5 years from now, is that I actually didn't know much about the world. I've learned more in the last 5 years than I've done in 40, how old am I? 39 years of my life previous.
Again, it's interesting that you say that, because I'm probably the last 3 years. I think I had quite a hectic event happen in my life. And I find the universe does that when we are so set in our ways and tunnel vision, something big happens, which, it's like a grenade being dropped on our lives. But yeah, I also feel the same. I'm 40 now, and I feel like the last 3 years, it's just really, just been learning so much, and just feel a lot more purpose driven in all that I'm doing.
Where has that learning come from for you, though? Has it come from the place of being uncomfortable?
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. And just getting rid of my shitty excuses, like, and just not blaming others, just taking, 100% responsibility. Like, Trace, if you don't do XYZ, then you're not going to, achieve XYZ. Or, this person responded to you in this way. Well, what was your role in that as well? It's not just that person's fault. So I had to take a really, really, really good hard look at myself, and just figure out where exactly, my areas for growth were. And again, having a mentor has changed my life. I think life is hard as it is. It's beautiful as well. Don't get me wrong. But I think when you've got someone who can see your potential, who can guide you and really give you those tools to kind of change your life. Again, don't get me wrong. I had to do all the hard work, but it's having
Yes,
a mentor, having someone who can really help you, or say, hey, have you thought about this? Can really change the entire trajectory of your life.
totally. Someone that can
Mm.
hold not hold you to accountable, but can see through your bullshit is probably awesome.
100%. 100%. And yes, I'm sure Paul would agree, and calls a spade a fucking spade when I need to hear it. So, yes, about that. Luke, if there was one bit of advice you could give yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
You're capable of anything. You are
Yeah.
absolutely capable of anything. There is not one thing that you're not capable of.
Mm,
Um, you are, you can turn any moment into a movement, whatever that
yeah.
is for you.
Love
Doesn't have to
that.
be big. Everyone is capable, and I'm capable to achieve whatever the world allows me. Probably the other thing is let things flow, don't force.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Let
also
things
great.
flow, don't force. But again, you have to know what that is within you to let things flow.
Mm.
That to me, they're the two things. 100%.
Luke, any final words of wisdom before we sign off?
We've talked about some big topics today in this,
Thank you.
hour that we've been together. Know that it's okay. Like if you are going through a piece of pain and going through your own shit at the moment, it's okay to sit in your shit.
Mm.
You have to. And it's okay to not move forward quickly. It's okay to do all these types of things. But just know that, I just got off a phone call to someone else who one of their work colleagues committed suicide, right? And she's
Mm.
in this guilt trip at the moment of, I could have done more.
Wow.
And, like I think all of us have to navigate so much in our world that, if there is a moment out of today's conversation is just know that you're going to be okay.
Mm.
Know that no matter what life throws at you, it's throwing at you for a reason. That reason you don't understand right now, and that is okay.
Yeah.
If you do it exactly what I said, and when you're in that place and time where you can look back at that moment and find where this can lead to and where the growth comes and what you might be able to give back to others because of the situation that you've gone in, when you
Mm.
flip the script and you flip your mindset around it, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay.
So powerful, Luke. Thank you so much. And I can attest to that great advice because I've experienced the very same thing in my life. So thank you so much. Thank you for all that you've shared. And where is the best place for our listeners to go should they wish to connect with you?
Probably the best place is if you want to check out cuppa.tv. That's where you can
Mm.
learn from. We've got 550 plus experts who share their wisdom, from First Nations leaders to menopause
Awesome.
experts to laughter yoga experts.
Oh,
You know,
great.
yeah, just go to cuppa.tv to go on your own learning journey. If you want to connect with me, LinkedIn's probably best. So just look for Luke Hook at cuppa.tv and, find me on LinkedIn, connect, and I share as much as I can to support others. And yeah, they're the two places.
And Luke definitely responds to his DMs because I messaged him and asked him to come on the podcast. So thank you so much. You didn't ignore me.
No. And, like it's good because you just don't know. Like I said, you don't know who's on the other line. You don't know where one moment's going to go. And I think, being able to share the story and vulnerability is an important thing. And congrats to you for
Definitely.
doing the same.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you for your time.
No worries, Tracy. Thank you.
Cool. Stay on, Luke. There we go. I'll just hit. I won't hit end record just yet. Thank you so much. That was really beautiful.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much. The
Great
fact.
questions too.
Oh, thank you. The fact that you, especially as a guy, and I'm not trying to, pigeonhole anyone. I think it's great to see that you just speak so vulnerably because a lot of men don't have the courage. And again, society, all that stuff has made them that way. But it's just so nice to see you doing that. So thank you so much.
Nah, it's a mission.
Yeah.
Vulnerability needs to come from a place of strength, and I'm lucky I'm strong with where I am.
Yes.
So it is, it's an important message, especially for blokes.
Definitely. And you've endured as well, Luke. So you should be really proud. It's
I
not
am.
easy because I've been through the same. Like I said, I had a grenade dropped on my life. And it's just, yeah, whilst it was terrible, it's made me a better person and serve others and stuff. But the fact that you've endured it, like, well
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please keep in touch on LinkedIn. I'll continue to stalk you there.
Yeah, stalk me. Yeah. You never know where the next opportunity might pop up, eh?